Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted to be joined by Elliot. As we're looking, we've just watched the Leigh Wood, Josh Warrington weigh-ins there ahead of tomorrow night's WBA World Featherweight title. First and foremost, Elliot, it was a brilliant atmosphere at the weigh-in, it seemed, from what I was seeing. What were your initial thoughts and immediate reaction on how both guys looked?
Hi, Paul. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's got that big fight feeling. Looks like a lot of fans from Josh Warrington's side and Leigh Wood's side had both turned out to the weigh-in, which was really just good to see because that's what you want when it's a big fight. And yeah, look, there was an intense feel about the weigh-in, but at the same time there was respect there, which was nice. Nobody was kind of pushing anyone, which sometimes we like that, but sometimes when it's a bit kind of put on, it's easy to be against that. So yeah, just definitely up for this one. I think this is one of the biggest fights to take place in the UK this year, and there's a lot of excitement on boxing Twitter and obviously at the weigh-in themselves and WhatsApp groups and things like that. So yeah, really looking forward to it now.
Yeah, mate, 100% echo everything you've said there. I think for me, I almost prefer it when we've just seen what we've seen, where both men are so fired up, but they're both so respectful to each other as well. It was handshakes and hugs on the stage after they both weighed in. None of this pushing and shoving. They were both raring, and to tell they're both ready to go. But the respect is almost, it's definitely there between both of them. And so fair play. Sometimes I do prefer that. Obviously, Leigh Wood weighed in at 125.7 pounds, Warrington 125.3 pounds. Obviously, the featherweight limit is 126, so both men making weight. Both obviously relatively big featherweights, I would say, in my opinion. What did you make of how both men looked, Elliot? Who do you kind of think looks slightly better? Because I know you're a big fan of looking at reading into how the fighters look on weigh-in day.
Yeah, definitely. Without sounding weird, but yes, interesting when two blokes are there in their underwear, looking at each other. With Leigh Wood, I thought he looked better today than he did for the previous two Lara weigh-ins. Personally, it's no doubt he's a big featherweight, as you said, and he's struggled to make featherweight for a long time. But if you consider 100, he's come in with with some ounces to spare today. So it's clearly not been too much of a. It's obviously been a struggle, but I don't think he struggled as much as he has done in his last couple of fights. However, I do think win, lose or draw, I do think he will move up after this fight. I do think it's the right decision to do. It's the right decision to do that. That way, you can try and become a two-weight world champion as well, which I'm sure he would love to. Sure he would love to do. So yeah, I think this will be his last fight at featherweight, but I still think he looked good. Josh Warrington, I thought looked the better of the two, and I just think it's crazy with Warrington. He's only ever been at featherweight, and he's been a pro 10, 11 years, a long time. He's been at that weight for a long time, and I'm not convinced he'll ever move up. He came in slightly lighter than Leigh Woods, and I think he looked pretty good, to be honest. But I just find it crazy that he's never had to move up, or he's never looked super gaunt at a weigh-in. So yeah, those are my thoughts, and it's nice that we're not reporting on anyone looking too drawn, looking too fatigued ahead of tomorrow night, because then there's a concern about how they're going to perform.
Yeah, mate, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I think a hopeless plug just before tomorrow night, but I did an interview obviously with Leigh Wood prior to the fight, which you can check out. It's up on our YouTube channel. And exactly what you said there, Elliot. He said the same thing. He said, obviously his ultimate confidence in winning the fight, and diligent and professional as always in making the weight. But he did say he's been at it a long time. He's 35 now. He did basically said that unless there is a mouthwatering offer on the table, so that I assume he means a unification or something along those lines, or a massive city ground fight, whatever it is that he was going to move up. So I think you're right. As you said, chance of becoming a two-weight world champion potentially. And then yeah, for Warrington, he just has some energy at weigh-ins, doesn't he?
Hmm.
Like just as soon as he weighs in, and then obviously it's been a struggle to make the weight, and then he just goes. As soon as David Diamante announces his weight, he's just going, "Ah, ah." And now that
Yeah,
he does, he looks all so fired up. And you could
yeah,
tell that yeah, both men are
yeah.
really, really confident ahead of tomorrow night.
which is
Um,
rare, to be honest. That's the thing. Like, it's rare for someone to act like Warrington at weigh-ins. Most people at weigh-ins, they just kind of want to get over and done with so they can have a drink. But with Warrington, he just, as you said, it's weird how much energy he has, considering the past 24 hours he's probably not had much to eat or drink. The way he's just kind of jumping around is quite bizarre when you think about it. But yeah, fair play to him.
yeah, mate, I remember Danny saying once, it's do you read anything into who goes for the water bottle first, who goes for the Lucozade first? Some people do, some people don't. But yeah, I know that you like to kind of base some of your predictions off how a fighter looks on the scales. Without, I'll come to your predictions in a minute, Elliot, and I'll give mine too. But just before we get to that point, without giving away who you are fancying to win the fight, you mentioned that Leigh would look better than the Lara fight. Josh Warrington looked as good as always. Has your opinion on the fight or prediction changed at all now that you've watched the weigh-in?
Yeah, not really, mate. I think I did want to see the weigh-in and think about it before giving before kind of having the conversation we're about to have, in case depending on what kind of how Lee Wood looked. And with Warrington, it has been what 10 months since his last fight. So you don't know if in those 10 months it's a bit more difficult for him to make weight. One thing I will say is, look, I think it's a very hard fight to call. It surprises me that more people aren't going for Warrington. I understand why Leigh Wood's a slight favourite. I get it if you look what the run he's been on in recent fights. However, I just think that, yeah, I'm just a bit surprised. I'm not seeing more people go for Warrington personally.
Yeah, very interesting, mate. Well, we may as well get straight to it. You mentioned there you're more surprised. You're surprised that more people aren't going for Warrington. Are you one of the people that is backing Josh Warrington, or you think Leigh Wood will retain his belt?
So it's a really tough one. But here to give a prediction, and I think it will be a very close fight, and Josh Warrington might just win on points. It will go the distance, and it will be close. And yeah, that's me. But I could be wrong. But that's my prediction going forward. I just think Leigh Wood, is it one too many fights at featherweight? I think Josh Warrington, I just think his best days aren't necessarily behind him. He's just not had the best performances of late. And I think people are underestimating him. But it's a really tough one. And these are the sort of fights that are great to be involved in, because one person's saying this guy, another person's saying this guy. A lot of people can't decide. A lot of people can't give a prediction. So yeah, it's really exciting. But I'm going for Warrington on a close points decision.
Yeah, interesting, mate. Very interesting. I'm not sitting on the fence either, but I am going the other way. Probably no surprise to you at all, mate. But in all, no, genuinely all biased and genuinely thinking about my prediction for the fight, although he's the older man of the two by 3 years, I just feel like Leigh Wood has more left. He hit his peak later in his career than Josh Warrington did. Um, in saying that, Josh Warrington's defeat to Luis Alberto Lopez is no disgrace now. It was a split decision. It was a close fight, and look what Luis Alberto Lopez has gone on to do. So people saying that Josh Warrington's completely over the hill, I disagree with that. But I just think that Leigh Wood does have more. Think that Warrington will be dangerous early. I remember Card Frampton saying that he didn't expect him to be as powerful as he was, especially early on. I'm not going to say that, Wood will be on the canvas or anything, but I think he'll maybe have to weather a storm early on and will take over in the mid to late rounds. Wouldn't surprise me if Leigh Wood won on points, but I'm just edging towards a late stoppage because it's clear that, Leigh Wood has a ninth round stoppage over Reese Mold late in the fight, and then two final round stoppages over Kanju and Michael Conlan. And I think that he'll be able to get
Mm.
Josh Warrington out of there in the last 3 or 4 rounds for me. That's my prediction.
Fantastic. Look, I'm really looking forward to it. If Leigh Wood wins, I'll hold my hand up. I'm not against either fighter. I'm not for either fighter, to be honest. But yeah, who knows? Maybe it will be another Michael Collins style stoppage, which might just tip you over the edge, Paul. But we'll see.
Who knows? It remains to be seen. Can't wait for the fight. Thanks very much for jumping on with me, Elliot. Yeah, and can't wait for the fight tomorrow night, guys. Let us know your thoughts on the weigh-in and your predictions for tomorrow night. And yes, Elliot, I'll speak to you again soon.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me. Speak to you soon.